Disagreement. First published Friday, February 23rd, 2018. There was a substantive revision on Thursday, February 29th, 2024. We often find ourselves in disagreement with others. You may think nuclear energy is so volatile that no nuclear energy plants should be built anytime soon. But you are aware that there are many people who disagree with you on that very question. You disagree with your sister regarding the location of the piano in your childhood home, with you thinking it was in the primary living area and her thinking it was in the small den. You and many others believe Jesus Christ rose from the dead. Millions of others disagree. It seems that awareness of disagreement can, at least in many cases, supply one with a powerful reason to think that one's belief is false. When you learned that your sister thought the piano had been in the den instead of the living room, you acquired a good reason to think it really wasn't in the living room, as you know full well that your sister is a generally intelligent individual, has the appropriate background experience, she lived in the house too, and is about as honest, forthright, and good at remembering events from childhood as you are. If in the face of all of this, you stick with your belief that the piano was in the living room, will your retaining that belief be reasonable? In the piano case, there's probably nothing important riding on the question of what to do in the face of disagreement. But in many cases, our disagreements are of great weight, both in the public arena and in our personal lives. You may disagree with your spouse or partner about whether to live together, whether to get married, where you should live, or how to raise children. People with political power disagree about how to spend enormous amounts of money, or about what laws to pass, or about wars to fight. If only we were better able to resolve our disagreements, we would probably save millions of lives and prevent millions of others from living in poverty. Disagreement has been put to many tasks in philosophy. In metaethics, disagreements, is that metaethics? Yeah. In metaethics, disagreements about ethics have been used to motivate anti-realist views. In the philosophy of religion, disagreement has been used to motivate religious pluralism. This article examines the central epistemological issues tied to the recognition of disagreement, the implications that disagreement has for our knowledge, and the rationality of our beliefs. Section 1, disagreement and belief. Section 2, belief disagreement versus action disagreement. Section 3, response to disagreement versus subsequent level of confidence. I'm not actually going to read all these. I'm just going to go straight into section. To a certain extent, it may seem that there are just three. Oh, well, okay. Section 1, disagreement and belief. To a certain extent, it may seem that there are just three doxastic. What does that mean? Doxastic, relating to belief or opinion as opposed to knowledge or fact. Okay. There are just three doxastic attitude. Wait, I want to make sure I'm actually right on pronouncing this. Am I right? Oh my god, I'm such a fucking genius. Okay. It may seem that there are just three doxastic attitudes to adopt regarding the truth of a claim. Believe it's true, believe it's false, i.e. disbelieve it, and suspend judgment on it. In the most straightforward sense, two individuals disagree about a proposition when they adopt different doxastic attitudes towards the same proposition, i.e., one believes it and one disbelieves it, or one believes it and one suspends judgment. But of course, there are levels of confidence one can have regarding a proposition as well. We may agree that global warming is occurring, but you may be much more confident than I am. It can be useful to use disagreement to cover any difference in levels of confidence. If X has one level of confidence regarding belief B's truth, while Y has a different level of confidence, then they disagree about B. Even, even if this is a slightly artificial sense of disagree. These levels of confidence, or degrees of belief, are often represented as point values on a 0 to 1 scale, parentheses inclusive, with larger values indicating greater degrees of confidence that the proposition is true. Even if somewhat artificial, such representations allow for more precision in discussing cases. We are contrasting disagreements about belief from disagreements about matters of taste. Wait, I wonder. We are contrasting disagreements about belief from disagreements about matters of taste. Our focus is on disagreements where there is a fact of the matter, or at least the participants are reasonable in believing that there is such a fact. Section 2. Belief disagreement versus action disagreement. Suppose Jope and Dope, is that what we're going? Okay. Suppose Jope and Dope are college students who are dating. They disagree about two matters: whether it's harder to get top grades in economic classes or philosophy classes, and whether they should move in together this summer. The first disagreement is over the truth of a claim. Is the claim, or belief, is it harder to get top grades in economic classes compared to philosophy classes, true or not? The second disagreement is over an action. Should we move in together or not? The action equaling moving in together? Call the first kind of disagreement belief disagreement. Call the second kind action disagreement. The latter is very different from the former. Laksha is a doctor faced with a tough decision regarding one of her patients. Laksha? Yeah. She needs to figure out whether it's best, all things considered, to just continue with the medications she has been prescribing or stop them and go with surgery. She confers closely with some of her colleagues. Some of them say surgery is the way to go. Others say she should continue with medications and see what happens. But no one has a firm opinion. All the doctors agree that it's a close call, all things considered. Laksha realizes that as far as anyone can tell, it really is a tie. In this situation, Laksha should probably suspend judgment on each of the two claims. Surgery is the best overall option for this patient, and medication is the best overall option for this patient. When asked which option is the best, she should suspend judgment. That's all well and good, but she still has to do something. She can't just refuse to treat the patient. Even if she continues to investigate the case for days and days, in effect, she has made the decision to not do surgery. She has made a choice, even if she dithers. Oh my god, what the fuck? Dithers? Okay, be indecisive. It's either dithers or dithers. Dither. Even if she dithers. The point is, when it comes to belief disagreements, there are three broad options with respect to a specific claim: believe it, disbelieve it, suspend judgment on it. And of course, there are a great many levels of confidence to take as well. But when it comes to action disagreements, there are just two options with respect to an action: X, do; X, don't. Do X? What the? Oh, okay. With respect to an action X, do X, don't X. Okay, I see. Oh, or don't do X. Whatever. Shut the fuck up. You know, you understand what I'm saying. Suspending judgment just doesn't exist when it comes to an action. Or to put it a different way, suspending judgment on whether to do X does exist, but it is pretty much the same thing as not doing X, since in both cases, you don't do X. Feldman 2006C. Thus, there are disagreements over what to believe and what to do. Despite this distinction, we can achieve some simplicity and uniformity by construing disagreements over what to do as disagreements. What the fuck is this sentence? Okay. Despite this distinction, we can achieve some some simplicity and uniformity by construing disagreements over what to do as disagreements over what to believe. What the fuck? Okay, we do it this way. If we disagree over whether to do action X, we are disagreeing over the truth of the claim we should do X, or I should do X, or X is the best thing for us to do, so on and so forth. No, these aren't all equivalent. Well, I'm okay, fuck you. This translation of action disagreements into claim disagreements makes it easy for us to construe all disagreements as disagreements about what to believe, where the belief may or may not concern an action. Keep in mind, though, that this translation doesn't mean that action disagreements are just like belief disagreements that don't involve actions. The former still requires a choice on what one is actually going to do. With these points in mind, we can formulate the primary questions about the epistemology of disagreement. Fuck, how long do I have? Okay. However, it is worth noting that agreement also has epistemological implications. If learning that a large number and percentage of your epistemic peers or superiors disagree with you, okay. If learning that a large number and percentage of your epistemic peers or superiors disagree with you should probably make you lower your confidence in your belief. I feel like there's a better way to structure the sentence. Okay. If learning that a large number and percentage of your epistemic peers and superiors disagree with you, you should probably make you it should there's an it fucking missing from the sentence. It should probably make you lower your confidence in your belief. Then learning that those same individuals agree with you should probably make you raise your confidence in your belief, provided they have greater confidence in it than you did before you found out about their agreement. In posing the questions, we start with a single individual who realizes that one or more other people disagree/agree with her regarding one or her beliefs. We can formulate the questions with regard to just disagreement or to agreement and disagreement. We also have the choice of focusing on just agreement/disagreement or going with levels of confidence. Here are the primary epistemological questions for just disagreement and no levels of confidence. Response question. Suppose you realize that some people disagree with your belief. B. How must you respond to the realization in order for that response to be epistemically rational or perhaps wise? Belief question. Suppose you realize that some people disagree with your belief B. How must you respond to the realization in order for your subsequent position on B to be epistemically rational? Okay. Here are the questions for agreement/disagreement plus levels of conviction. Response question. Suppose you realize that some people have a confidence level in B that is different from yours. How must you respond to the realization in order for that response to be epistemically rational or perhaps wise? Belief question. Suppose you realize that some people have a confidence level in B that is different from yours. How must you respond to the realization in order for your subsequent position on B to be epistemically rational? How long have I been fucking reading? Oh, 15 minutes. Let me look at section 3 just real quick. Fuck. I can read through section 3. Fuck me. Okay. Okay. Section 3. Response to disagreement versus subsequent level of confidence. A person can start out with a belief that is irrational, obtain some new relevant evidence concerning that belief, respond to that new evidence in a completely reasonable way, and yet end up with an irrational belief. This fact is particularly important when it comes to posing the central questions regarding the epistemology of disagreement. Christensen, 2011. Suppose Bub's belief that Japan is a totalitarian state, belief J, is based on a poor reading of the evidence and a raging irrational bias that rules his views on this topic. He has let his bias ruin his thinking through his evidence properly. Okay. Then he gets some new information. Some Japanese police have been caught on film beating government protesters. After hearing this, Bub retains his old confidence level in belief J. Fuck you. Okay, we take it that when Bub learns about the police, he has not acquired some new information that should make him think, wait a minute, maybe I'm wrong about Japan. He shouldn't lose confidence in his belief J merely because he has learned some facts that do not cast any doubt on his belief. He shouldn't lose confidence in his belief merely because he learned some facts that do not cast any doubt on his belief. Okay. The lesson of the story is this. Bub's action of maintaining his confidence in his belief as a result of his new knowledge is reasonable, even though his retained belief itself is unreasonable. Bub's assessment of the original evidence concerning J was rational, but his reaction to the new information was rational. His subsequent belief in J was, still irrational, because although the video gives little support to J, it's not much. The question, is Bub being rational after he got his new knowledge, has two reasonable interpretations. Is his retained belief in J rational after his acquisition of the new knowledge, versus is his response to the new knowledge rational? On the one hand, rationality demands on the one hand, rationality demands that upon his acquisition of new knowledge, Bub drops his belief J that Japan is a totalitarian state. After all, his overall evidence for it is very weak. On the other hand, rationality demands, On the other hand, rationality demands that upon his acquisition of new knowledge, Bub keeps his belief J, given that the acquisition, which is the only thing that's happened to him, gives him no reason to doubt J. The situation still might strike you as odd. After all, we're saying that Bub is being rational in keeping an irrational belief. But no, that's not what we're saying. The statement, Bub is being rational, is ambiguous. Is it saying that Bub's retained belief J is rational, or is it saying that Bub's retaining of that belief was rational? The statement can take on either meaning, and the two meanings end up with different verdicts. The retained belief is irrational, but the retaining of the belief is rational. In the first case, a state is being evaluated. In the second, an action is being evaluated. Okay. That was kind of clean. Consider a more mundane case. Jack hears a bump in the night. In irrationality, thinks there is an intruder in his house. He has long had 3 cats and 2 dogs, so he knows by now that bumps are usually caused by his pets. Further, he has been a house owner long enough to know full well that old houses like his make all sorts of odd noises at nights, pets or no. Jack has irrational belief B. There is an intruder upstairs, or there is an intruder downstairs. Then after searching upstairs, he learns that there is no intruder upstairs. Clearly, the reasonable thing for him to do is infer that there is an intruder downstairs. That's the epistemically reasonable cognitive move to make in response to the new information, given despite the fact that the new belief, there is an intruder downstairs, is irrational in an evidential sense. These two stories show that one action of retaining one's belief, the intellectual action, can be epistemically fine even though the retained belief is not. And more importantly, we have to distinguish two questions about the acquisition of new information, which need not having anything at all to do with disagreements. After you acquire some new information relevant to a certain belief B of yours, what should your new level of confidence in B be? Fuck you, sentence. Okay. What should your new level of confidence in belief B be in order for your new level of confidence regarding B to be rational? After you acquire some new information relevant to a certain belief B of yours, what should your new level of confidence in belief B be in order for your response to the new information to be rational? The latter question concerns an intellectual action, parentheses, an intellectual response to the acquisition of new information, whereas the former question concerns the subsequent level of confidence itself, the new confidence level you end up with, which comes about partially as a causal result of the intellectual action. As we have seen with the Japan and intruder stories, the epistemic reasonableness of the one is partially independent of that of the other. Okay. 22. Okay. I typically do like 30 minutes, so I'm just like 8 more minutes. Okay. Can I read through 4? Oh, God, it's so long. Okay. 8 minutes, 8 minutes, 8 minutes, 8 minutes, 8 minutes. Okay. Section 4. Disagreements with superiors, inferiors, peers, and unknowns. Oh, it's such a long section. Okay. Geez, we're starting off strong too. Okay. A child has belief B that hell is a real place located in the center of the earth. You disagree. This is a case in which you disagree with someone who you recognize to be your epistemic inferior on the question of whether B is true. You believe that Babe Ruth was the greatest baseball player ever. Then you find out that a sports writer who has written several books on the history of baseball disagrees, saying that so-and-so was the greatest ever. In this case, you realize that you're disagreeing with an epistemic superior on the matter, since you know that you're just an amateur when it comes to baseball. In a third case, you disagree with your sister regarding the name of the town your family visited on vacation when you were children. You know from long experience that your memory about this is as reliable as hers on matters like this one. This is a disagreement with a recognized epistemic peer. There are several ways to define the terms superior, inferior, and peer. Parentheses, Elga 2007, see section 5 below. I will not. You can make judgments about how likely someone is compared to you when it comes to answering, is belief B true, correctly. If you think she is more likely, example, you suppose that the odds that she will answer it correctly are about 90%, whereas your odds are just about 80%, then you think she is your likelihood superior on that question. If you think she is less likely, then you think she is your likelihood inferior on that question. If you think she is about equally likely, then you think she is your likelihood peer on that question. Another way to describe these distinctions is by referencing the epistemic position of the various parties. One epistemic position describes how well placed they are, epistemically speaking, with respect to a given proposition. The better one's epistemic position, the more likely one is to be correct. There are many factors that help determine one's epistemic position or how likely one is to answer is belief be true correctly. Here are the main ones. Francis 2014. Okay. Cognitive ability had while answering the question, evidence brought to bear in answering the question, relevant background knowledge, time devoted to answering the question, distractions encountered in answering the question, relevant biases, attentiveness when answering the question, intellectual virtues possessed. Call these disagreement factors. Presumably, what determines that X is more likely than Y to answer is B true. Correctly are the differences in the disagreement factors for I fucked this entire sentence up. Okay. Call this disagreement factors. Presumably, what determines that X is more likely than Y to answer is B true. Correctly are the differences in the disagreement factors for X and Y. Sorry about that. I muted for a second. All right. Fuck was I? All these disagreement factors. Presumably, what determines that X is more likely than Y is to answer is B true correctly are the differences in the disagreement factors for X and Y. You could have put more fucking commas in this sentence. Jesus. For any given case of disagreement between just two people, the odds are that they will not be equivalent on all disagreement factors. X will surpass Y on some factors, and Y will surpass X on other factors. If you are convinced that a certain person is clearly lacking compared to you on many disagreement factors when it comes to answering the question, is B true, then you'll probably say that you are more likely than she is to answer the question correctly, provided you are not lacking compared to her on other disagreement factors. Why'd they choose her? Why? Because he's fucking person who wrote this like disagrees with women a lot or something? Okay, anyways. If you are convinced that a certain person definitely surpasses you on many disagreement factors when it comes to answering is B true, then you'll probably say that you are less likely than she is to answer the question correctly, provided you have no advantage over her when it comes to answering is B true. If you think the two of you differ in disagreement factors, but the differences do not add up to one believing believe okay. If you think the two of you differ in disagreement factors, If you believe, you think the two of you differ in disagreement factors, but the differences do not add up to one person having a net advantage. Parentheses, so you think any differences cancel out, then you'll think you are peers on that question. Notice that in this peer case, you need not think that the two of you are equal on each disagreement factor. On occasion, a philosopher will define epistemic peer so that X and Y are peers on belief B if and only if they are equal on all disagreement factors. If X and Y are equal on all disagreement factors, then they will be equally likely to judge B correctly, but the reverse does not hold. Deficiencies of a peer in one area may be accounted for by the advantages in other areas, with the final result being the two individuals are in an equivalently good epistemic position despite the existence of some inequalities regarding particular disagreement factors. In order to understand the alternative definitions of superior, inferior, and peer, we will look at the two cases of disagreement. Francis 2014. Suppose I believe B, that global warming is happening. Okay, suppose I believe B, that global warming is happening. Suppose I also believe P, that Taylor is my peer regarding B in this sense. I think we are equally likely to judge B correctly. I have this opinion of Taylor because I figure that she knows about, as well as I do, the basic facts about expert consensus. She understands and respects that consensus about what the fuck? Okay, sorry. I figured that she knows about as well as I do the basic facts about expert consensus. She understands and respects the consensus about as much as I do, and she based her opinion of B on those facts. Parentheses, I know she has some opinion on B, but I have yet to actually hear her voice it. Thus, I think she is my likelihood peer on B. Opinion B, or whatever the fuck. But in another sense, I don't think she is my peer on B. After all, if someone asks me, suppose you find out later today that Taylor sincerely thinks B is false. What do you think are the odds that you'll be right and she'll be wrong about B? I would reply with over 95%. I would answer that way because I'm very confident in B's truth. And if I found out that Taylor disagrees with that idea, then I will be quite confident that she's wrong and I'm right. So in that sense, I think I have a definitive epistemic advantage over her. Given how confident given how confident I am in B, I think that if it turns out we disagree over B, there's a 95% chance I'm right and she's wrong. Of course, given that I think we are equally likely to judge B correctly, and I'm very confident in B, I'm also very confident that she will judge B to be true. So when I'm asked to think about the possibility that Taylor thinks B is false, I think I'm being asked to consider a very unlikely scenario. But the important point here is this. If I have the view that if it turns out that she really thinks B is false, then the odds that I'm right and she's wrong are 95%, then in some sense, my view is that she's not fully my peer on B. As I think that when it comes to the possibility of disagreement, I'm very confident that I will be right and she won't be. Dude, how much more do I have? I don't know if I'm going to finish this. Okay. Now consider another case. So many cases. Suppose Janice and Danny are the same age and take all the same math and science classes through high school. They are both moderately good at math. In fact, they are almost always good. They almost always get the same grades in math. On many occasions, they come up with the different answers for homework problems. As far as they have been able to determine, in those cases, 40% of the time Janice has always been right, 40% of the time Danny has been right, and 20% of the time they have both been wrong. Suppose they both know this interesting fact about their track records. Now they are in college together. Danny believes on the basis of their track records that on the next math problem they happen to disagree about, the probability that Janice's answer is right equals the probability that his answer is right. Unless there is some reason to think one of them has some advantage in this particular case. Example, Danny has a lot more time to work on it, or some other significant discrepancy in disagreement factors. Suppose further that on the next typical math problem that they work on Danny. What? Who? Suppose further that on the next typical math problem they work on Danny. Thinks that neither of them. Okay, whatever. They work on Danny thinks that neither of them has any advantage over the other this time around. And then Danny finds out that Janice got an answer different from his. In this math case, Danny first comes to think that B, his answer, is true. But also he thinks that if he were to discover that Janice thinks B is false, the probability that he is right and Janice is wrong are equal to the probability that he is wrong and Janice is right. That's very different from the global warming case, in which I thought that if I were to discover that Taylor thinks B is false, the probability that I'm right and she's wrong are 19 times the probability that I'm wrong and she's right. God, this is like a fucking math nerd wrote this. Okay, 95% times, no, 95% is 19 times 5%. Fuck you. Let's say I think you're my conditional peer on B, if and only if before I find out your view on B, but after I've come to believe B, I think that if it turns out that you disbelieve B, then the chance that I'm right about B is equal to the chance that you're right about B. This motherfucker took philosophy and statistics. Fuck. Okay. So although I think that Taylor is my likelihood peer on the global warming belief, I don't think she is my conditional peer on that belief. I think she is my conditional inferior. I think she is my conditional inferior on that matter. But in the math case, Danny thinks Janice is his likelihood peer and his conditional peer on the relevant belief. So central to answering the response question and belief question is the following. A better position question. Are the people who disagree with B in a better epistemic position to correctly judge the truth value of the belief than the people who agree with B? Are the people who disagree with B in a better epistemic position to correctly judge the truth value of the belief than people who agree with B? Okay. Put in terms of level of confidence, we get the following better position question. Are the people who have a confidence level in B that is different from yours in a better epistemic position to correctly judge the truth value of the belief than the people who have the same confidence level as yours? The better position question is often not very easy to answer. You fucking think? For the majority of cases of disagreement, with X realizing she disagrees with Y, X will not have as much evidence to think Y is her peer, superior, or inferior when it comes to correctly judging B. For instance, if I am disgusting, I'm a disgusting fuck. Okay. For instance, if I am discussing with a neighbor whether our property taxes will be increasing next year, and I discover that she disagrees with me, I may have very little idea on how we measure up on the disagreement factors. I may know that I have more raw intelligence than she has. Jesus fucking Christ. I may have more raw intelligence than she has, but I probably have no idea how much she knows about local politics, how much she has thought about the issue before, etc. I will have little basis for thinking I'm superior. What is raw intel? Like IQ? Okay, anyways, I will have little basis for thinking I'm her superior, inferior, or peer. We call these the unknown cases. Thus, when you discover that you disagree with someone over B, you need not think or have reason to think that she is your peer, your superior, or your inferior when it comes to judging B. A related question is whether there is an important difference between cases where you are justified in believing your interlocutor is your peer, and in cases where you may be justified in believing that your interlocutor is not your peer, but lack any reason to think that you or your interlocutor are in the better epistemic position. Peerhood is rare, if not entirely a fictional idealization. Yet in many real-world cases of disagreement, we are not justified in making a judgment regarding which party is better positioned to answer the question at hand. The question here is whether different answers to the response question and the belief question are to be given in these two cases. Plausibly, the answer is no. An analogy may help. Hopefully. It is quite rare for two people to have the very same weight. So for any two people, it is quite unlikely that they are weight peers. That said, in many cases, it may be entirely unclear which party weighs more than the other party if they agree that it is unreasonable to believe that they weigh the exact same amount. Rational decisions about what to do where the weight of the party matters does not seem to differ in cases where they are weight peers, in cases where the parties simply lack a good reason to believe either party weighs more. Similarly, it seems that the answer to the response question and the belief question will not differ in cases of peer disagreement, in cases where the parties simply lack any good reason to believe that either party is epistemically better positioned on the matter. Okay, we're almost there. Another challenge is answering the better position question. Another challenge in answering the better position question occurs when you are a novice about some topic and you are trying to determine who the experts on the topic are. This is what Goldman terms the novice expert problem. Goldman, 2001. Phone? Hello? Okay, whatever. I'll check it after. While novices ought to turn to experts for intellectual guidance, a novice in some domain seems ill-equipped to even determine who the experts in that domain are. Oh my. Been in some fucking misinformation type bullshit. Hardwig, 1985-1991, claims that such novice reliance on an expert must necessarily be blind and thus exhibit an unjustified trust. In contrast, Goldman explores 5 potential evidential sources for reasonably determining someone to be an expert in a domain. A. Arguments presented by the contending experts to support their own views and critique their rivals' views. Me and any internet political debate. B. Agreement from additional putative experts on one side or other of the side. What the okay. B. Agreement from additional putative experts on one side or other of the subject in question. C. Appraisals by meta-experts of the expert's expertise, including appraisals reflected in formal credentials earned by the experts. D. Evidence of the expert's interest and biases what is this fucking Latin ass philosophy term? Vis-a-vis? The question that it vis-a-vis? Okay, hold on. Vis-a-vis in relation to, with regard to. Okay, so evidence of the expert's interest and biases in relation to, with regard to the question at issue. Okay, and am I saying that right? Vis-a-vis? I'm so fucking genius. Evidence, E, evidence of the expert's past track records. The vast majority of the literature on the epistemic significance of disagreement, however, concerns recognized peer disagreement. For disagreement with superiors, see Francis 2013. We turn now to this issue, Section 5, peer disagreements, which I will not read right now. Jesus, I went 46 minutes. Okay. I love you. I love you. I hope you guys have a great day. And you be easy. Bye. Okay. I'm done.